Brendel uses this phrase that I'm really drawn toward, really excited by. She says she's looking to escape the coarseness of human understanding.
Brendel is trying to show us the thing that's behind what you think is. And that's the very essence of quantum mechanics, right? There's what you see, and there's what things really are.
But what I like about that is she's acknowledging the limitations of direct human observation. My name is Hans Baumann. I'm an environmental artist based in Los Angeles. So temporality is one of the key themes within my own work. And by temporality, I'm simply describing change over time. For example, I'm interested in how this manifests in Earth systems because as quantum mechanics tells us, space and time are codependent. You need to know where you are to know when you are, and to know when you are, you need to know where you are.
My name is Shanna Dobson, and I'm an assistant professor at Art Center College of Design, and I live and work in Los Angeles, California. Right now, I'm working in a couple fields. One is arithmetic geometry, category theory, and topos theory. I'm very passionate about intersecting mathematics with other fields.
The very first thing that struck me about Brendel's work is she takes her interactions with scientists, specifically some of the leading physicists of the day, very seriously. But she's not only in conversation or in dialogue with these scientists, she's actually studying amongst them and then making contributions and then seeing her role as an artist, not so much as one of interpreting or translating, but really reflecting upon what she seems to be as perhaps the most promising, radical, or even critical aspects of theoretical and quantum physics. So it's really brilliant work.
Her bravery at taking quantum mechanics, which is a very difficult language to begin with, and trying to make it visual. So that immediately resonated with me.
Brendel's work was clearly relevant at the time, but what I would argue is that it was in dialogue with a series of ideas that were relatively far outside the realm of the discussions that art institutions were centering at that time. She's situating herself inside this very interesting world of scientific discovery that's occurring in Southern California at the time, from the activities going on at the Mount Wilson Observatory to the development of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena to the formation of Caltech and all the research going on there.
In the panels that are strung together, you can see a series of different views of what a particle is, right? So in quantum mechanics, the scale is 10 to the negative 35 meters. It's very small. And so these ordinary notions that we have of things like a particle is a point are not going to hold there. And so what she has on that left side is this very definitive like black circle. This is a particle. Your eyes immediately go to it, right? And the center of it is this zigzag crescendo of not chaos, right, but lines.
So we know, from reading through the art history surrounding her that she's using a palette knife, a very simple object, to create lines that are of identical length, perhaps in an elegant way of describing what she calls amplitudes of vibrating particles in space. So she's using these slash marks to convey atomic motion. And in doing that, she's actually bringing her work beyond the realm of classical physics. So classical physics is the motion and relationships of objects in space at a kind of scale in which we can observe. But Brendel's work is actually looking at it on a subatomic scale.
Particles are wave and particle-like, depending on the observer, depending on the eye. So the eye itself is switching between particle, wave, particle, wave. This is not one seamless, continuous motion she's showing us. She's showing us the world of quantum mechanics, where things are discretized, 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 discretized. It's almost like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. At one moment, he's a cat. He's a whole cat talking to Alice, right? And then he can disappear parts of him, and there's a tail here and a face here. And so he becomes discretized, right? Meaning that there is a packet of him here and a packet of him here.
So my understanding is one of the scholars or scientists that Brendel was encountering was Schrödinger, who was talking about particles having wave-like characteristics. And so there being this kind of duality present in something that we understand to be singular or unified. And so what Schrödinger is suggesting is that these are subatomic particles that are existing as both pure energy and pure form.
When a particle, like an electron, is being observed, it behaves like a point, like classical physics wants us to believe. And then when the particle is not being observed, you could see that it behaves like a wave.
And when we think about this kind of duality present in the particle as having multiple characteristics, it brings us to this highly complicated idea known as quantum superposition. And one of the things that I find so interesting about quantum superposition is that in attempting to describe what I'm about to describe, I'm actually not describing this thing correctly. So this is an issue that I think Brendel is also encountering in her work, which is the translation of quantum theoretical physics, which is a purely mathematical construct, and bringing it into a world outside of kind of these equations. I see her as placing the human at the center of this discussion, establishing the limitations of human observation, and then asking us to look beyond, really to trust to look beyond. And I find the interest in her work is attempting to visualize those systems or those aspects of the universe that escape direct human observation.
The process of abstracting is absolutely shared between artists and scientists, mathematicians in particular. If you think about a concept in mathematical language, right? It can take the form of an equation or something like that. You may not feel the full essence of what's actually going on in that equation. So what's nice about the artistic lens is that it can give a sense of embodiment to that equation. What does it feel like to be next to a black hole? What does it feel like to be in total uncertainty, right? So the artistic lens can be the one medium that makes that mathematical language universal and accessible.
And I believe Brendel has kind of license to work in that fashion because in her own words, she's not trying to make a model for instructional purposes. What I think Brendel was trying to do, and I think this touches on this concept of abstraction, is she's trying to enter into dialogue between the world of ideas, both her own and the ideas present in the science that she's addressing, and physical phenomena. And Brendel isn't developing these ideas in isolation. She's in dialogue with some of the leading physicists of her day. So for instance, when Heisenberg says something to the effect of, we're not observing nature itself, but rather nature as exposed to our method of questioning. Brendel is exploring that kind of motif, I guess you could say, in her work through the medium of painting.
What I think is significant about Brendel working beyond the scientific gaze is her bravery and innovation. She met with scientists who said it might not be the best to visualize quantum mechanics, and she attempted it, and she did amazing at it. In her writings, she says, the object is not the art, it is the evocations and the visualizations around it. She says, the object is my mind. Her contributing that level of praise for the thinking space and to sort of shift art, not so much on the actual object that is being created, but in the process behind it, I think is very radical for her time. She is embracing the wonder of quantum mechanics and she's not running from it. She's taking it face on.
And so as a contemporary art practitioner, I'm very interested in looking back at Brendel, perhaps as being a more central figure than we might have otherwise understood in the development of the relationship between art and science, specifically contemporary art practice and science.